Bedrock, how was those two laps?
A little bit on the shallow side. I think once we'll be able to do more on the nominal timing-wise.
Just the formation lap. Let me anyone tell me how it is. Like, what more can I do? Anything? Struggling to get the brake temperature at the same time.
Okay, formation lap procedure, Max. Mode 12 for the dummy launch and formation lap. Pit limiter off and a static by-point find once the car is on the ground. Practice start to third gear, and then during the formation lap, I've tried to generate as much temperature as possible. Could be difficult to achieve, so push that quite hard. Then into turn 12, we need to lift and coast for around 3 seconds, and no more than 50% throttle after that. So turn 12 is the limit.
What was the tyre target again?
+5 if you can. And then from what would be position 21 on the grid, remember Stroll is P20, click the overtake for 2 long burnouts. 2 long burnouts. And an extra ramp rather than coasting down into your start position.
F1 driver alongside me, Jenny Gow, and Jack.
Okay, special. So, Verstappen P1 is soft, Perez Sainz P4, 5 soft, Leclerc 7 soft, Tsunoda 13 soft, you've got Mick ahead of you soft, behind you just the PP who's P18 soft. Everybody else is medium, no hard time. Just tell the cars around you again, so P13 Tsunoda soft, Mick next to you soft, Latifi behind you soft, Albon P17 has been. Just had a bit of indication that there's a bit more tailwind going into turn 1. And update you.
So, Albon on medium and medium.
Correct, yeah. Correct. Gasly is medium ahead of you, but
Can Mercedes get their first win of this 2022 Formula One World Championship season? Can Hamilton get his first win of the season, or can Max Verstappen become the all-time record most wins in a season man? It is 8 o'clock here on BBC Radio 5 Live. This, the Mexican Grand Prix. And on the formation lap, this is how the grid will line up. Max Verstappen starts on pole position in the Red Bull on the soft tyre. Russell and Hamilton in the Mercedes are second and third on the mediums. Fourth is Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Fifth is Carlos Sainz on the Ferrari, both on soft tyres. Bottas is sixth in the Alfa Romeo on the mediums. Charles Leclerc seventh on the softs. Then it is Norris, Alonso and Ocon the rest of the top 10. Ricciardo, Joe, Tsunoda, Gasly and Schumacher the top 15. Vettel, Albon, Latifi, Magnussen and Stroll the 20 drivers. The runners.
Okay, so we think track temps, he's been bouncing around a bit with the track with the cloud cover. Dropped down to 44, but I think he's coming back up now to that 48 region. Still happy to take that one hole out.
What's your thoughts? Are we higher than the other car?
No, other cars is higher, but yeah, different scenario, I think, in terms of the front rear surface temp balance.
Yeah.
This has backfired on Mercedes. Then it's a real long run, and they need to try and think of some other strategy element to bring in, because the buffer there for Verstappen key. If they hold second and third, they could be in a strong position. So brave strategy or conservative strategy? That's what I can't work out from Mercedes.
On the face of it, when you're not winning, you want to be doing something different to the driver that is, because it gives you some other option to come through rather than necessarily beat a car that's very difficult to beat on track in a straight fight, especially with that straight line speed that Verstappen has.
Cars coming around the final corner now. Verstappen, winner in Mexico last season, winner in 2018, winner in 2017. 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix at the Circuit Hermanos Rodriguez are going to went the way of Max Verstappen, and he is going to be lining up on pole position once again. About 20 minutes or so, just sort of southeast of downtown Mexico City. And Hamilton and Russell are about to line up in their grid slots. Russell second on the grid, Hamilton third, Jenny Gao.
This is a high altitude circuit. 200 meters. Reliability overheating has been an issue all weekend. Teams are worried going into this race. They don't have enough data to enable them to guarantee they'll finish the race.
Lance Stroll coming around the final corner now in the Aston Martin. Verstappen is on pole position in the Red Bull. Russell in second, Hamilton third. It looked as though Verstappen was maybe positioned a bit aggressively across the front of Russell. Maybe it is pretty even. The final car lines up in position. Lance Stroll at the back of the grid, and the Mexico Grand Prix is about to get underway. Here come the lights. Verstappen on pole, Russell second, Hamilton third, Perez fourth. The race begins now, and it's no reasonable getaway from Verstappen as he comes down towards turn 1. He's got away with him, and it's tucked into the rear wing underneath as they come down towards the first corner. Perez is coming to the outside though of the 2 Mercedes. They're jostling for position. Russell goes on the attack to the outside. Verstappen holds the lead. Is Perez going to get Hamilton? That's the question. Is Hamilton going to get Russell? The answer is yes. Hamilton gets past George Russell. They're still side by side. Mercedes remains second and third. Perez in fourth, but he's now going to the outside of Russell, challenging for third on the run down towards turn 4, and he pulls it off. Great move there from Sergio Perez. There's a huge cheer from the Mexican fans. The Ferraris are side by side.
Mode push, mode push.
But Verstappen holds the lead. Hamilton is second, Perez is third, Russell is fourth, Sainz is fifth, Leclerc is sixth, Alonso seventh, Bottas eighth, ninth is Ocon, 10th is Lando Norris. It worked well for Verstappen, and it's not gone well the start for George Russell, second to fourth.
He actually had a decent start, was alongside Verstappen into the first corner, but then was just pinched on the inside of turn 2. The left-hander Hamilton, really good instinctive move around the outside of his teammate. I think Lewis knew how crucial it was to clear his teammate, to maybe get the preferred strategy now for Mercedes today, and he went with it around the outside, fair racing through 2 and 3, but then Russell was just wide, couldn't get the drive up to 4, and that's when Perez came through as well on his soft tyres. But I think Mercedes will be happy enough with that. They were started second and third, they're now second and fourth. Hamilton ahead has been the main man for them in the races so far, and he's kept Perez at bay despite Perez starting.
So Perez 0.9 ahead, Sainz 0.8 behind, 1 lap more without DRS.
Red Bull. Russell is fourth in the Mercedes, fifth and sixth the 2 Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc. Alonso up 2 places in 7th, Bottas down 2 places in 8th, Ocon is 9th, Norris is 10th, and then it is Tsunoda, Joe, Ricciardo, Vettel and Stroll the top 15. Stroll started last, so he's gained 5 places on that opening lap. Then it's Gasly, Schumacher, Magnussen, Albon and Latifi, the 20 drivers.
The 2 Ferraris were so close racing each other as well on that first lap. Still 5th and 6th. Leclerc has got ahead of Bottas, who we're riding on board with now, coming through the middle sector, sitting in behind Fernando Alonso. So Bottas lost 2 places on his medium tyres. The Ferraris, like the Red Bulls, were on the softs, and Leclerc used it to gain the spot, but they were so close. I'm not even sure if they might have touched coming into turn 4, side by side through a sequence of corners. 5th and 6th, and they're right behind Russell.
Into the stadium section they come at the Forest.
Hamilton at 1.4. Max is lap 23.2. Hamilton 23.3. DRS enabled.
The main start finish straight again, and the gap from Verstappen in the lead to Hamilton in second is 1.5 seconds. A reminder, Verstappen on the softs, Hamilton on the medium. So in theory, Hamilton will be able to go longer into this Grand Prix before having to make his first pit stop. Perez is in third, Russell is in fourth, Sainz in fifth, Leclerc in sixth. A look here from Norris trying to get past Esteban Ocon. So Norris in 10th, trying to get ahead of Esteban Ocon in 9th place. Verstappen on that last lap, fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and at the lights out, as you say, it was a good start from George Russell, pretty even with he and Verstappen, but despite being in the slipstream of the Red Bull, neither Mercedes could make any progress in towards the first corner, and Hamilton actually did well because Perez was right alongside him. Perez almost squeezed Sainz off as well. Bottas had no straight line speed or was super early on the brakes into the first corner, but Hamilton made that move on Russell kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, Russell was just slightly napping, slightly came into it tight into turn 2, and Hamilton just had the outside line, could carry the speed, and he just was committed to it, wasn't he? I'm sure he was sitting on that grid thinking, I have to clear my teammate here if I want to win the Grand Prix. And that move then hindered Russell down towards turn 4, and Perez, in fact, did most of that job on the straight, on the run up to turn 4. Just the sound on board with Hamilton, the replay from the start. Verstappen got away well. Russell then covered the inside, and there was just everyone 5 in a line down the inside for a while. Russell fanned out to the outside. Everyone was very good on the brakes. We've seen so many incidents on as well, but everyone was good and fair, and then Hamilton came through. Mercedes were fair with each other as well, really, through 2 and 3, but Hamilton then had the better drive off, got into second. Russell over the curb, lost a bit of traction, down to 4.
Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, alongside me, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gao, covering the Mexican Grand Prix here on BBC.
Look for front saturation in 13, and you were a bit too fast in the high speed, about 2-3 tenths.
In the first sector on that lap, took a couple of tenths out of Lewis Hamilton, so he's closing the gap, or attempting to close the gap, but at the moment the top 5, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, Sainz, and also Leclerc, all separated basically by 1.5 seconds. Jenny Gao.
We're expecting pit window for those who started on the soft tyre, so include the 2 Red Bulls in that, to open around lap 16 if they're going to do a 2-stop strategy. But a lot of these people will try and make a 1-stop work for them. The medium, if you started on that, around lap 28 in an ideal world, but they're desperate to cling on to these tyres and manage them as best they can to make them last as long as they can.
Sergio Perez pretty close to the back of Hamilton as they come around the final corner and out onto the start finish again. There's just over a second between them. Perez not in DRS range at the moment. Fernando Alonso is creating a bit of a queue behind him in 7th place. Alonso, Bottas.
So Bottas at 0.6 behind again. Back left available for turn 4.
Bottas has got the DRS open as he tries to attack Alonso into turn 1. Does he fancy the lunge, Valtteri Bottas? Could have probably answered that before I asked the question. He does not on this particular occasion, Bottas, and sits behind Fernando Alonso. Bottas overtaking Alonso would be one I'd be interested in seeing.
Well, you might see it in a minute because he's got another chance coming into turn 4. DRS open again.
Bottas goes to the outside. Alonso covering the inside, but nowhere near getting through this time, Valtteri Bottas.
So quick this weekend, Bottas, but he's never been an aggressive racer throughout his career.
Okay, Valtteri, we're in a very good position here. Plan A. We need to stick to plan A.
So they want to stick to whatever their original plan was. They've lost a place to Alonso. Alonso is on the same compound of tyre in 7th place, but Alfa Romeo seem happy at the moment.
And whilst Bottas out-qualified Leclerc yesterday, I think Alfa Romeo will have known they're not racing Ferrari today. As well as Bottas did yesterday, looked really quick. Their race is to be 7th, basically, best of the rest behind the Ferraris, Mercedes and Red Bull, and then pick up the pieces if anything kicks off ahead. So that's why they're not disappointed too much with Bottas being 8th. If he can clear Alonso, then he's onto a nice run, really, to being best of the rest, 7th. That's their goal for this one. But at the moment, it's Fernando Alonso in the way. And for a man that doesn't like a lunge, Fernando Alonso is a man that loves the defence. So yeah, it could be an interesting scrap.
Fastest lap of the race set by Lewis Hamilton. Gap comes down to 1.2 seconds. It was 1.5 seconds at the end of the previous lap. So on that last lap, he's taken 2 or 3 tenths out of Verstappen in the race lead. Perez still there in 3rd, and he is 1.4 seconds back from Hamilton. So still pretty equidistant between the top 3. Russell has dropped back a little bit, and Sainz and Leclerc are dropping back further from Russell than Russell is from the cars in front.
Now, there should be a point where the medium tyres are faster than the soft. Early on, the advantage...
Up to Alex, 0.8. Let's try to stay within that DRS.
Look healthy with the floor of your left. It's feeling quite strange in some corners.
Stand by. It's all good with the car, all good.
At the start of having theoretically the slower tyre off the line to then have the faster tyre at some point, and it looks fairly similar, the pace right now between the softs and the mediums, but at some point the softs will go away, Verstappen and Perez will start to fall back towards Mercedes if the Mercedes car is fast enough.
There's a question mark if these soft tyres could last more than 15 laps before they start away. Remember, this is a 71-lap race, so we're looking out for signs of that. Also, if you started on the medium tyre, your ideal strategy is to get these tyres until after lap 50. Yeah, 50, so that you can then convert onto the soft tyre and go to the end. That's what they're trying to do, but when...
Give up the entry to 3 for a better exit, please.
Just made a bit of a mistake coming into turn 1, locked up the front tyre, but he's managed to carry on his way. Latifi's just got ahead of Magnussen, so Magnussen has dropped back now behind both Williams. He was complaining of gearbox problems on the way to the grid, so I wonder if those issues have reared their head again for Kevin Magnussen. Ricciardo is trying to put a move on Joe. He's got back coming into turn 6, but he's a little bit too far back to make a move up the inside of the Chinese driver who's running in 12th place at the moment. Hamilton's 1.3 seconds back from Max Verstappen. Then it's 3 seconds back now to Sergio. It's 1.5 seconds back to Sergio Perez. 2 seconds back to Russell in 4th. 3 seconds back now to Sainz and Leclerc in the Ferraris. And that soft tyre, I imagine, would have been to gain them ground at the start. But Leclerc gained a spot, but Sainz didn't move up any positions either. So they're sort of they're in 5th and 6th, back end of the top 6, and not on the ideal strategy potentially.
And it's not been a good weekend for Ferrari. Being out-qualified by an Alfa Romeo with a Ferrari engine in the back is never a good sign. And they got ahead of that Alfa Romeo. That was Bottas, who's still in 8th behind Alonso. But 5th and 6th at the moment, making no inroads, just slowly dropping away from Russell. Leclerc has been the faster of the 2 Ferraris in race trim as well, and he's behind his teammate.
Ricciardo trying to get ahead of Joe again coming into turn 1, still not able to get the job done. Then Pierre Gasly's also trying to attack Lance Stroll as they fight over 15th position. Here comes Ricciardo again, coming down towards turn 4, goes to the outside, and Joe is still far enough ahead to be able to come over, take the racing line and carry on his way. Lap 8 of 71. Verstappen's lead goes up to 1.6 seconds halfway around this lap, so he's managed to...
So you're doing a good job. We're in control now, but just keep doing what you're doing. Other people got the same problem.
Just on Toto Wolff, ahead of this race, he said they were going to go incredibly aggressive on strategy if they needed to, and that included potentially splitting their drivers strategy-wise to cover all bases, something we hardly ever see Mercedes do. They like to give their drivers the same chance, but if they're going to win this race, they do need to be aggressive.
Problem is, they've got Perez ahead of Russell now. So it's not the 2-on-1 that Mercedes were hoping they'd have. It never was with Perez starting 4th. There was never an interloper in the middle of that Mercedes-Red Bull fight. But now Perez has got ahead of Russell as well. There is no chance that Russell can force Verstappen to cover off an undercut or anything.
Ricciardo's close to the back of Joe, and this time he makes the move. 12th place now for Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. Gets ahead of Joe, and there's just...
Okay, Valtteri, you're doing a good job like this. Just another step in 14, 15.
That last lap, hasn't he? Coming down in towards turn 1. So Albon making some progress and Haas dropping back.
Yeah, terrible for Haas at the moment. Behind one Williams, and then Latifi is the only car they're ahead of with Schumacher. So tough start for Haas. Ricciardo, nice move, but easily done in the end on Joe. He's chasing him for a few laps. Oh, there's a little touch as well with Stroll and an AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. Just in the braking zone, sort of moving towards each other down towards turn 1, just behind Ricciardo putting the pass on Joe, but they both continued.
Hamilton closes the gap down to Verstappen a little bit. 1.6 seconds the gap between them as they come across the line down towards turn 1. Lap 10 of 70. Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, the top 3.
Verstappen just on the radio saying he's struggling with grip out there at the moment, something we've heard from him several times this weekend.
So Russell is drifting away from the top 2, half a second slower than Hamilton on the last lap. He's nearly 6 seconds down on the race leader. He's still not a mile away from Perez, but there is just a gap starting to build slightly from Verstappen to Hamilton, 1.5 seconds, 1.7 Hamilton to Perez, and then it's 2.5 back to Russell. Is he dropping back to save his tyres and play the long game here, or is he just starting to lose the pace of the top 3? behind him, he's got a nice cushion though, because the Ferraris are not quick at this point. They're on the soft tyres. Sainz and Leclerc lapping 1 minute 24.0. They're barely quicker than Alonso and Bottas. Those two still scrapping over 7th. And the Ferraris on the softs, only 0.3 of a second per lap quicker than those midfielders on the mediums. Lap 10 of 71, about to start lap 11 of 71 as Verstappen comes through the final corner now. 1.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Through the baseball stadium they come. And Verstappen still
sliding everywhere, man. I've no grip.
And now from Hamilton to Perez, then it's 2 seconds. Perez to Russell, 4.5 seconds from Russell to Sainz. Sainz did his personal best lap of the Grand Prix. And then it's 2 seconds back to Charles Leclerc in 6th position. Bottas still close to the back of Fernando Alonso, but nowhere near close enough to making a move.
The biggest issues with racing in Mexico is the altitude. It means that the cars can overheat very easily, and you don't want to sit in the dirty air of the car in front of you, so they need clean air. There have been power unit overheating, radiators, you name it. So all the teams cautious about quite how close they can follow the car in front.
Lap 11 of 71. Verstappen still leading in the Red Bull. Hamilton in 2nd, Perez in 3rd, Russell in 4th. Then it's that gap back of 4.6 seconds to Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc in the 2 Ferraris, who, as well.
Okay, you can use overtake out of 3 as well if you need. You can use overtake out of 3. Let me know about tyres when you can.
Yeah, all good. I've got him in front.
Tyre life over the course of this season, so if they struggle here with pace and tyre life, then things aren't necessarily getting much better for the Scuderia.
Well, Sainz did a personal best, at least on the last lap on his softs. Still slower than all the cars ahead, but it was an improvement from him. Half a second down on the race leaders. Russell as well is starting to pick up his own pace, so maybe it was just dropping back, saving tyres, saving a bit of clear air for himself, and now he's able to get closer. In fact, just 6 thousandths of Hamilton's time on the last lap. So still 6 seconds covers the top 4. It's tight. It's still anyone's game. It's just a little bit at the moment. No big impression made by anyone. The soft tyres are still hanging on.
Yeah, I think that's the way to describe it, isn't it? It's almost like it's a game of chicken, really, as to who's going to blink first and how much can Verstappen keep his tyres alive compared to Lewis Hamilton in 2nd place, and then what can Perez do in 3rd position? Because if Perez gets close enough, presumably he can try and scare Mercedes into pitting Lewis Hamilton to avoid the undercut, but they are on different tyre strategies, so maybe Mercedes aren't going to be too worried about the undercut in this scenario.
If they want to win the race, they can't be thinking about covering off Perez early.
Sliding everywhere, man. I've no grip.
Lance Stroll in 15th position, complaining about no grip.
It's been the order of the weekend, really. No grip, low downforce circuit, high altitude, so it's thin air, which means that even though they're running as much wing as they possibly can, the downforce is still minimal. It's also not that warm. The tyres aren't working all that well. There's a lot of sliding around. So there's been so many mistakes from drivers throughout the weekend. Leclerc crashed his Ferrari on Friday. Yesterday, there was all manner of problems for so many drivers up and down the field. Even Russell, on his last flying lap, slithered off the road and blew what he thought was a chance of pole. And now Stroll on the radio, down in 15th place in the Aston Martins, who are Vettel's in 14th. The two of them are having a really tough weekend after showing their best pace of the season last week. But he's radio saying no grip. And this is the sound of Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, hunting him down.
Gasly's very, very close in that fight over 15th position. Stroll covers the inside. Gasly goes to the outside. Can't get the job done on the brakes. Stroll holds the inside line and holds on to 15th position at the moment. Fastest lap of the race last time through for Lewis Hamilton, but it was only 300ths quicker than Max Verstappen managed. Gasly's got another run coming down into turn 4, tries to sell Stroll the dummy, sells Stroll the dummy, locks up. They're going to be wheel to wheel, and Gasly pushes him off the circuit. And I think Gasly's going to have to give that one back because they both went flying off track. And Gasly surely will have to relinquish that spot. He's gained 15th place, but fairly unfairly.
Yeah, I like the intention of it from Gasly.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
Saw the inside. Stroll covered the one into turn 1. Then Gasly went for it. A little bit of a dummy. But in the end, I think just too late on the brakes. Stroll tried to turn in. Gasly was locking up. and just couldn't make the corner himself. So that's an illegitimate pass.
Force me wide.
Yeah, that was Stroll's opinion.
Gasly has not yet yielded that place either. I think he's just quite a frustrated man at the moment in general, isn't he? He's not having a strong start to this race either. His teammates looking at the back of Lando Norris for a point, and Gasly's fighting with Stroll for 15th place. And at the moment, he's stayed ahead and will be incurring a penalty.
Verstappen's radio.
Just need to try and break this toe, Max. Doing a great job.
So Verstappen being told you need to try and break this toe. Hamilton on the last lap, quickest lap of anyone. This time it was about 700.
Just need to try and break this toe, Max. Doing a great job.
Need to break the toe is the message to Verstappen.
They are nip and tuck out front. Perez made a big mistake on the last lap. He lost a second in one lap. So that gap has now gone up to 3.5 seconds, Hamilton to Perez. And Russell, in fact, now is just a second and a half back from the second Red Bull. Verstappen, 1.5 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Then 3.5 seconds back to Perez. And then another Mercedes on the tail of the second Red Bull. Perez there with an error. The conditions are tricky, low grip for everyone, even on the soft tyres right now. Hanging on, Verstappen does the personal best this time. He's 300s quicker than Hamilton this lap around, but mistakes could be the order of the day.
Pit window is just about to open for those starting on the soft tyres and maybe starting to struggle. The loss when you come in to change all 4 tyres and go back, it's 22.5 seconds in normal running. If there's a safety car, drops down to just a 12-second change.
Man, you gotta tell me what to do.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're within a 10th of Ocon on medium. Everybody is struggling. Everybody is struggling massively. Okay? Use your tools, go up on entry, prioritise exits. Everybody is struggling and you're within a 10th of Ocon on medium.
A one-on-one fight, it'll be good for them to not have to worry about Perez.
Albon thinking about a send into turn 1, but he's a little too far back from Lance Stroll. Stroll down to 16th place. It's been noted, the incidents involving Gasly and Stroll, but no decision as of yet, as Albon is the next person to try and attack Stroll. And it's got now where Gasly, well, he's 1.7 seconds away, so even if he gets a 5-second time penalty, that'll probably work out better for him in the long run of the Grand Prix.
Well, he could have maybe got him back the next lap if he get the pace up again. He will, surely.
And Daniel, we think Plan A target lap at the moment, Plan A.
Teammate Sebastian Vettel ahead. There's a bit of a gap to make up first.
Lap 16 of 71. That's Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, alongside Jenny Gow and myself, Jack Nichols, in the commentary box covering the Mexican Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. 2 races to go after this. In 2 weeks' time, the Brazilian Grand Prix, and then 3 weeks' time, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to round off this 2022 Formula One World Championship season. In case you haven't seen the football scores from today, Arsenal beating Nottingham Forest 5-0 to retain their position at the top of the Premier League, and Man United with a 1-0 win over West Ham to move up into 5th position, and only 3 points off Tottenham with a game in hand. So good win that for Man United. Here's Max Verstappen's radio. He's leading the Grand Prix.
I'm struggling a lot with the bouncing there, and I'm feeling right the curve.
Okay, copy.
So Verstappen's saying it's difficult to ride the curves. I'm struggling with the bouncing. He's in the lead of the race. He's 2 seconds now clear of Hamilton. He did the fastest lap of the race last time around.
Yeah, he's not struggling too much. The gap is just starting to extend. 2 seconds now for the first time in the Grand Prix. Perez is actually, he's regrouped after that one mistake where he dropped a second. Still 3.5 seconds back. Russell with a personal best. He has got the pace of his teammate at the moment, but he's got a Red Bull in the way. And then the Ferrari's drifting away ever more. But Verstappen, whilst he's not happy with the bouncing through the curbs, they're taking a lot of curb around this circuit through turns 2 and 3, bouncing all the way. And 3 is particularly important because it leads onto a long straight where there would be DRS and a chance for Hamilton to pass if he could get within a second. Also, the middle sector, so much curb being used. The bouncing is tough on the tyres as well because you're sliding a little bit more. It means you're more likely to make mistakes as well because the car is more unpredictable. But I do think it's probably the same for everyone in this condition.
Alex Albon is hunting down Lance Stroll for 16th place, and Stroll on the radio is desperately unhappy, and that car has been onto his engineer saying, look, just tell me what to do. He's furious with them, and they're saying to him, just calm down, everything's fine, use your tools, and everybody is struggling out there, but Stroll really unhappy right now.
Yeah, he's under still quite a lot of pressure from the Williams of Alex Albon. Gasly is now 2.8 seconds up the road. Lap 18 of 71. Verstappen takes another 0.3 out of Hamilton on that lap, so the gap comes up to 2.3 seconds now. So Verstappen's starting to put the hammer down a little bit. Perez in third is 3.6 seconds back from Hamilton. Russell is still staying in there with Perez, 1.7 seconds back from the Red Bull driver in third. And then it's 9 seconds back to Carlos Sainz. 5-second time penalty for Pierre Gasly.
Okay, no risk of gradients. You can lean on these in the high speeds for temperature. Lean on the high speed for temperature.
Could drop him out back behind, although the gap's actually already up to 4 seconds. Stroll's struggling so badly that that's going to be not relevant for Gasly in terms of places going backwards, but will cost him going forwards.
Well, Albon might be passing Stroll soon anyway. Stroll, in fact, pits. So now it's Albon that's within 5 seconds of Pierre Gasly, and it was inevitable that Gasly would have that penalty. I think he didn't care. Frustrated for a couple of laps behind Stroll, took the place. He would have known he went all 4 wheels off the circuit. If not, the team certainly should have told him, but he kept the place anyway, and he'll take that penalty in a stop.
So Stroll, the first driver in the pits.
Looks like he's locking into a 2-stop as well. He's gone medium to soft. 3.1 seconds was the stop time, and he wasn't liking those mediums at all, but to go onto the soft, I think definitely means at least 2 stops for him.
Albon flying now in Sector 1, did a personal best in the first sector since he was...
So Alonso is 8.9 seconds ahead of you. Bottas is behind him.
Albon's lead now 2.4 seconds over Lewis Hamilton. Perez is in third place still, 3.6 seconds further back. Here's Leclerc's radio. No, it isn't. Thought it was going to be, but stays out on circuit on lap 19 of 71. The Ferraris are absolutely nowhere. Nowhere at all.
Struggling so much in the high altitude.
Consider plan C, because we've nothing to lose.
We need to be careful with traffic with that plan.
So Leclerc saying, let's think about plan C if we've got nothing to lose. The team saying, well, we've got to think about traffic. Presumably that means pitting now and going for a 2-stopper maybe, but he would come out in the middle of everybody.
Well, the problem is the Ferraris are not quick enough that they've cleared the front runners. Bottas and Alonso.
Copy, mate. So good here. Ferraris, they are not very fast on the soft.
Last time out, had a grid penalty and charged his way almost into victory contention. Or he was right there for the podium at the end. But this time, there's just no pace for either of their cars. There's now 4 seconds between the two as well. So Sainz has managed to just eke out from Leclerc. Leclerc saying, well, if we've got nothing to lose, then let's just think about a pit stop. And Ferrari saying, well, actually, mate, we've got loads to lose. There's a load of midfielders that you'd fall behind. Lap 20 of 71. Verstappen's lead still 2.4 seconds over Hamilton. Hamilton was fractionally quicker on that last lap. Perez still 3.6 seconds back from those two. And it's still a second and a half from Perez in third to Russell in fourth. 10 seconds now back to the Ferrari drivers in fifth and sixth. Sainz and Leclerc. Alonso 7th, Bottas 8th, 9th for Ocon, 10th for Norris. Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Joe, Vettel, Gasly, the top 15.
So Jun needs us to look after fronts for 10 laps.
Can you say we're on plan B?
At the moment, yes. Just look after these tyres for 10 laps and we'll review.
In kind of up and among have one set of mediums. So if this is turning towards a 2-stop race, people are going to be forced into using a different tyre than they potentially want to.
At 20 of 70, Stroll is so far the driver to have pitted, but we'll see what happens with the other front runners. Verstappen and Perez on the soft tyres in first and third. Mercedes with Hamilton and Russell second and fourth on the medium tyre. And on that last lap, the gap came down. Hamilton quicker than Verstappen by a couple of tenths of a second. So the gap comes down to 2.1 seconds now.
Generally, there's a little bit of signs of wear coming in. That was Verstappen's slowest lap of the Grand Prix, or certainly since the early laps that he's just put in, 23.6. Hamilton a couple of tenths quicker, but all of the top guys just drifting off their best laps in the last few, half a second away from the fastest lap of the race. Is that signs that the soft tyres are just starting to go away? The mediums are going away with them at this stage. Still Hamilton about 2 seconds back. Here's Russell.
So quite clear loss of pace from Verstappen. It won't be long before he might go very long with you.
Ooh. So that's Russell's radio, and Mercedes think Red Bull are going to pit soon.
I've just listened to the team radio. They've just asked him for a front wing update. He wants a couple more clicks on it. That usually is the sign that someone's about to come in.
It is. At the moment, Verstappen, they don't have the gap yet to pit Verstappen, but soon they will have the gap over Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. 18 seconds at the moment, Verstappen is ahead of Sainz. He's at a personal best in the third sector on that lap, trying to regain some of that time to Hamilton.
Opposite. At this pace,
I think it was a slow lap for Verstappen, just a bit of an outlier on the last lap. He picks up the pace again now. He's 400ths quicker than Hamilton. The trading blows again, Verstappen and Hamilton out front. Perez now 4 seconds away from Hamilton. So Perez, he's still there or thereabouts, but he's not an immediate threat to Hamilton's second place. And he's still got Russell just 1.5 seconds behind him. They've just got to be looking at that gap to Sainz. Sainz in the last lap a second slower than Verstappen.
Yeah, so that won't be too long. I mean, surely at this point, though, if Verstappen comes out on fresh tyres, here's his radio.
Opposite.
If Verstappen comes out behind Sainz on fresh tyres, he's cruising past him anyway, isn't he?
He is. He might lose a bit of time depending on where he catches him. But the thing is, what do the Mercedes do? Do they pit for some hards, take track position, and then go for a long stint to the flag? Might be a little bit like Austin.
Okay, so Lucy to Fernando, a little bit turn 4, 5 and 6. So if we push a bit more there, we'd like to save a little more in turn 9 as well if we can. Norris 1.8 behind and stable.
And I think their plan in the first instance was to take this fight to Red Bull at the end of the 71 laps, not at this phase. If they were on the same tyre now, Hamilton would want to be really pressing up to the back of Verstappen and pressuring him. Of course, he still does, but they're not about to pit on a similar lap, in theory.
Lap 23 of 71. Verstappen leading the Mexican Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live, 2.1 seconds ahead of Hamilton. So again, Hamilton takes a tenth out of him, but it's pretty ebbing and flowing at the moment. 4 seconds back to Perez now. So Mercedes are just waiting for the Red Bulls to pit.
There's definitely a little bit more sliding coming in from Verstappen. Another lap that was down towards the 23.6. And the more you slide, the more the tyres go away. You can start to have a bit of a lock-up, start to have a bit of a twitch on the tyre.
To make sure you're not overslipping the tyres. The track's cooling and other people have got to fit the medium. So keep focused.
Low-speed corner, turn 13, in the baseball stadium, the tightest corner on the circuit, and you can just lose lap time there as well. You lose lap time, you have a higher chance of making mistakes, and Hamilton is just starting to get towards being under 2 seconds behind.
I don't remember many times this season where Verstappen has been under pressure like this and where the tyres are going and the team is saying, well, you kind of got to stay out there, really, if you want to win this Grand Prix.
This is a race, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is a race that we've got on our hands. At the moment, it's a slow burner. Hamilton not able to put pressure on in a wheel-to-wheel context, but he's there. He's still in the mirrors of Verstappen, and you can feel the pressure that Max is under. Perez is pitting. Perez is pitting from third. He's been dropping away, and as he comes out of turn 16, in he dives. That'll release Russell.
So Sergio Perez into the pits from third spot. Russell now has clear air. What tyres is it going to be for Sergio Perez?
Opportunity, turn 13, slightly earlier braking to set the corner up more.
Oh, on the left rear, they couldn't get it off. They've got it on. Now he pulls away, but a pit stop that's normally 2 seconds was 5. So that's about 2.5, 3 seconds cost Sergio Perez in the pit lane, and that will give Russell an opportunity to stay ahead when Mercedes pit. But how long is that going to be? That's going to be the question. And are Mercedes, no matter the fact they've got this longer tyre stint and all of that, are they going to have to overtake both Red Bulls on track if they want to win the Grand Prix today? Well, not both, but you know what I mean. They're going to have to get past them on track if they want to win the Grand Prix.
If that was a move from Red Bull to get Perez in the mix with Hamilton, it's not worked. You can just hear how long he was stationary there in the pit stop. Extra 3 seconds compared to what would be an absolute beautiful stop in 2022. and it just didn't work. So Russell is net ahead of Perez, but can Russell pit anytime soon on the mediums? If so, surely he has to go to a hard tyre and go to the end on that. Perez now has got to unleash some pace.
Okay, Valtteri, if you want, you can reduce the lift off into turn 1.
Coming in, no, he's not. Verstappen stays out. Hamilton second, Russell third. Was that an attempt from Red Bull to try and get Mercedes to pit Hamilton or something? I don't think it would have worked, but or was Perez just out of tyres?
Well, Perez was holding pace-ish at 4 seconds back. Hamilton is getting closer and closer to Verstappen now. Verstappen getting slower.
My tyres are okay, mate. Copy.
Goodness me, that's one for the annals. Lewis Hamilton saying his tyres are okay.
We've had a few of them this year.
Yeah.
Normally he's out front of the last decade and the tyres have been on edge when actually he's been coasting to victory. Now he's fighting for victory and the tyres are okay. We've heard that so many times this season from Hamilton. He wants to stay out there. He is getting closer to Verstappen again. 1.6 seconds the gap. He was quicker by 0.2 on the last lap, but it's Verstappen getting slower more than Hamilton getting quicker at this time. The soft tyres are going away.
How's the tire feel, Mick? Is it coming back at all?
Not really. It's just, it's getting worse actually. It's not that weird.
Understood.
Got to pit in this time around at Red Bull.
Well, the thing is, as long as he's staying ahead of Hamilton, does it matter? Keep him out as long as possible, as long as he's ahead of Hamilton, because the gap was only ever 2 seconds. And so then you're minimizing, surely you're into the pits he comes now. I was just going to say, isn't he minimizing his tyre delta, but into the pits comes Verstappen.
What about the Red Bull stop? 2 bad stops in a row. One for Verstappen last time out. The stop for Perez here wasn't good. He stops on his marks well.
They all come off fine, they all go on fine, and away he goes. Little round of applause from the mechanics in the pit lane, and that was a 2.5 second pit stop from Max Verstappen. Very neat, very tidy. He comes out on the medium tyres again, and he's going to come out just behind Carlos Sainz, but he should be able to clear the Ferrari driver quite quickly.
So the Leclerc car in front on new softs, 24.7 his last lap.
With Verstappen, they weren't fussed about it with Perez, who's still behind Sainz and Leclerc. He's just done the fastest lap of the race, 1.7 seconds quicker than Lewis Hamilton, so he's going to be back ahead of Russell.
And let's just see what we can do on this tyre, Lewis. We are still target +6.
So let's see. So target +6 is the message. Obviously, we don't know what the target was.
We were briefed that the minimum number they're trying to do on that medium was 28 laps. +6 to that. I mean, it was 28 to 35 for the medium tyre, according to Pirelli.
Yeah, but Mercedes will have different plans to what Pirelli make up week in, week out. Lap 26 of 71. So now it's let's see what we can do. And that's not go flat out. That's not, it's hammer time. Look after these tyres and keep us in the Grand Prix so we can have the offset. The struggle, and I've kind of thought this since the very start, as Perez is now on the back of Charles Leclerc, and he has a look going into turn 12 there. Sergio wants a bit of a cheer from the crowd as he comes into turn 13, and this will be a fairly straightforward pass, I would have thought, as they come through the final couple of corners now, out over the start finish straight and down towards turn 1. Leclerc gets on the power, Perez following him, DRS pings open in the rear wing of the Red Bull, and he's closing and closing and closing, 200 miles an hour, 215 miles an hour as he gets through and gets him into 5th position. The crowd like it, Perez up into 5th place. This strategy for Mercedes, maybe it's the quickest way to run the race, but you do have to wonder, does it rely on them getting ahead of Red Bull on circuit and overtaking them on track, which is probably the thing you'd say is least probable.
But what they're wanting to do here is get a big tyre offset to make it.
You keep very good job. Keep doing that. And we've done 27 laps.
It was quite slow on the last lap, lost over a second to Russell again. So that gap is still advantage Russell, but I don't think George is going to be pitting just yet off his medium tyres. Mercedes have got to keep going now. Just rack up the laps on the medium, then let Verstappen use up his own medium tyres now, take the best out of them, get his tyres more worn, so when you put on your new tyres, be they hard or soft later on, then you can go and attack him and his tyres are past their best. That was always the plan by doing the strategy offset from the start.
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Verstappen, here's his radio.
I just said again.
Verstappen complaining about the shifts, but Verstappen did 25 laps on those soft tyres. We're on lap 28 of 71, so Mercedes really need to do another 15, 16 laps really if they want to go on to the soft tyres.
Oh,
Okay, Valtteri, understood. You're still doing a good job. The gap to Ocon behind is 3.5 seconds. This gap is good. Okay, Valtteri, understood. You're still doing a good job. The gap to Ocon behind is 3.5 seconds. This gap is good.
Complaining about cuts in his engine. Hamilton's now done 27 laps on the medium tyre. Verstappen's just gone onto it, so I'm fairly confident Verstappen can go to the end of the Grand Prix on the mediums. It's how far Mercedes push it, basically, because their gap to Verstappen is currently 17 seconds as they come across the line this time. So Hamilton leading, Russell second. Neither of the Mercedes have pitted. Verstappen has pitted and he's running in third place right now, 18 seconds off Lewis Hamilton in the lead of the Grand Prix. Sainz is fourth, Perez is fifth, and Perez is now closing in on Carlos Sainz for that fourth position. But this is going to be the question now. How far can Mercedes run into this Grand Prix as Leclerc comes into the pits for Ferrari, running in sixth position? None of the midfielders have pitted either. So seventh place downwards, no one has pitted. All your Alonso's, Bottas, Ocon, Norris, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Joe, everybody else is yet to come into the pits. It's just the front runners that have stopped.
Great stop from Ferrari, 2.3 seconds. Yeah, quicker than Red Bull so far, but Leclerc's going to emerge still into traffic because they've been so slow throughout that first stint. Perez is now on the back of Sainz and needs to clear him quickly, but he's caught him in quite a bad area, Perez. He's quicker than Verstappen when he has clear air. Verstappen is not using up the maximum from his tyres right now. Russell's just done a personal best on the last lap, slightly quicker than Hamilton for the last few, and Verstappen was only half a second quicker on his new tyres. Hamilton comes around the final.
All temperatures on tyres all nice and stable. Yeah, copy. I'm on brake 0 because of that.
A little slow, but it's not terrible. 3.3 seconds for the Mercedes team in the pits. Russell stays out there in the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen is going to get ahead of Hamilton here. Also into the pits comes Carlos Sainz, so that frees Sergio Perez up into fourth place. And Verstappen now up into second position. Hamilton into third, but he's on the hard tyres and he'll go to the end of the Grand Prix. Interesting move here from Mercedes. Are they going to split the strategies? Oh, dodgy stop from Ferrari. Front right from Carlos Sainz. Not going on. That cost him a decent chunk of time as he makes his way towards the pit lane exit. Only a second or so, but still not neat and tidy.
So Hamilton pitted there, I think, to cover off Perez, who was just clearing Sainz, but in fact Sainz pitted. One more lap, if Perez had it in clear air, might have been enough to make it at least very, very tight.
Lando, Sainz will be close at exit. Hamilton, he has fitted the hard, so we'll get another data point from him. Sainz, the car behind you.
Let's just keep going.
He's doing well, Russell, right now. Personal best again for him, quicker than any lap Hamilton has done on the medium tyres so far. Shows his pace is there, and again, half a second only slower than Verstappen on his new tyres.
Jenny Gow.
So Sainz has gone on to the mediums, as has Perez already. Hamilton's gone on to the hard. Verstappen's on the mediums as well, and Leclerc went onto the mediums. This will be fascinating to see if Verstappen can actually get to the end of this race on those medium tyres and convert this into a one-stop, which is what they all wanted to do, the one-stop.
That 31 of 71. George Russell leading the Grand Prix. Second place for Max Verstappen, third for Lewis Hamilton, fourth for Sergio Perez. But Verstappen, Hamilton and Perez have all made their pit stop. Russell has not yet. Alonso is fifth, yet to pit. Bottas sixth, Ocon seventh, Norris eighth.
Are we going plan B?
For now B, but we're looking at it.
Tsunoda, Magnussen, Stroll, Schumacher and Latifi, the 20 drivers. So, just getting a replay of Charles Leclerc running in 11th place. He had a moment coming through the S's on his way to the grid, and he's had another one coming through the S's here on lap 30.
A little spike of the heart rate, I think, for Leclerc coming through turn 8. That was a big moment. The car just suddenly letting go over the curb of the right-hander. Caught it. Ferrari are racing no one, really. I mean, if anything, they're racing Bottas and Alonso, such as their pace. They're not in contention with the Mercedes or Red Bulls. Still, a few things going wrong. Slow pit stop for Sainz. Leclerc right on the edge there, but nicely caught in the end. Here's Russell's radio.
Soft at the end. So we need to go very long to make that work.
Thing is, you might as well if you're Russell, because you got fourth place in the back.
From the hard.
Just monitoring that. We got also Hamilton just switched to the hard tyre. We'll keep you posted.
Copy, no problem.
Warm-up seems to be okay on the hard tyre. Hamilton set a green final sector on his outlap.
Win the race. He's going to finish behind Hamilton. They're on a similar strategy, and he'll need some team orders, and it's unlikely. His chance to win the race is to do something completely different to his teammate. Go long, stick on some softs. He'll have to come past not only Hamilton, but also the two Red Bulls as well to make it work. But that's his best chance. So, and he's doing a good job at the moment, Russell, still holding some decent pace. Good data as well for Verstappen to see how long he can go on his mediums. Can he get to the end? And what sort of life will those tyres be in by the time he gets there?
Just having a look at Sebastian Vettel. He's currently in P13 in the Aston Martin, but he's done 30 laps on the soft tyres with a full tank of fuel. So just go what you can.
Warm-up seems to be okay on the hard tyre.
Yeah, I think we are okay on any tyre. Car is good today. Come on.
Stop it up.
Get to pit, so the net order at the moment, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, they're running second, third and fourth. Here's Alonso's radio.
Seems to be okay on the hard tyre.
Yeah, I think we are okay on any tyre. Car is good today. Come on.
Stop it up.
Alonso's up for the fight. Car's good on any tyre.
You get some radio messages and you think, to be on the end of that is tortuous. And some, what a delight to hear in the Alpine garage. Alonso buoyant today, running in fifth. That's by virtue of the two Ferraris having pitted already and promoted him 2 spots, but still looking at 7th. And another haul of points for Alpine in their fight with McLaren. They're having a good day at the moment. Ocon still hanging on in there as well behind Bottas. Alonso is a happy chappy. The degradation looks pretty low across the board. Soft tyres are going away a bit. We saw that with the Red Bulls. We saw that with the Ferraris. The medium tyres are still hanging on in there. Russell not experiencing any significant degradation. And that is what Verstappen wants to take to the end.
Well, and that's why I'm a little sceptical about Mercedes not extending more and going onto the softs. I get they were covering off Perez, but that's not an aggressive strategy.
Well, that's the debate for them. Do they want to cover off Perez and then just focus on Verstappen? They have Perez in the bag now with Hamilton. Perez has got to pass Hamilton on track. He's 2 seconds back. Hamilton can't afford to make any slip-ups. But that should be job done with fresher tyres going to the end. So it's just about taking on Verstappen now and then hoping that Verstappen, he's got a long way to go on his mediums. Mercedes now got to hope that the way that Red Bull started getting through their softs, that they will also degrade the mediums, and Hamilton on the hards will just come charging at him in the late stages.
I would suggest Perez is lapping similar pace.
Okay, Valtteri, this is a really good pace. Alonso 2.8 ahead, Ocon 4.4 behind, and the Ferrari still have to clear Norris and Ocon before they can get to you. You're looking in a really good shape.
Verstappen, he knows this game. Last year, they had so many fights, Verstappen and Hamilton, where they would pit and one driver would be left floundering without the late pit stop, and you just have to just nurse your tyres to get to the end and wait for the attack to come. That is what Verstappen is doing right now. He was uneasy in the opening part of the race. 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, the Mercedes was in his mirrors. He was uneasy, and now he knows that whilst he's got the gap now, 6 seconds back to Hamilton, he's doing a good job. Verstappen, 6.7 seconds actually. I think Hamilton is not going quite as quickly on this lap, but he should be charging towards the end.
Russell comes into the pit lane then. He's boxing, so they've decided after lap 34 onto lap 35.
Okay, very good. Outlap critical. Going to be close with Albon on pit exit. If we can be in front of him, that'd be great. Norris is 3 seconds behind him.
Onto the hards have gone Norris and Ocon, and now George Russell.
I don't quite understand that one from Mercedes.
Middle of the road, middle ground, no man's land.
That feels no man's land. We're at half distance. Russell emerges behind Hamilton, back behind Perez by a margin. What are they trying to get out of that stint then? He's on fresher hards than Hamilton, fresher tyres than the two Red Bulls, but his pace wasn't dropping dramatically on the mediums. I think was calling his own strategy pretty nicely from the cockpit, considering Vettel is still out there on the soft tyres he started on.
And he's on fresher tyres than the Red Bulls.
Okay, Max, so soft stint wear life was of no concern at all.
So that inference is you can get to the end on these medium tyres. It's chill. The thing with Russell is...
Okay, mate, so status 0. We need to keep Ricciardo in our pit window. He's doing 24.5 lap time. We need to beat that lap time or quicker.
7-second gap to Verstappen. I don't understand the logic there for Mercedes to pit Russell. I'd have kept him out and tried to do something different. Maybe there'd be a safety car, in which case he could come right into the mix and maybe clear Perez. Pitting him there, I don't understand. It's a no man's land for Mercedes. Not early enough to go and take some gain of the hards going to the end. Just suffering in degradation, losing a second a lap compared to Hamilton for a few laps. Not late enough to put on a soft and be rapid at the end either. Strange.
Lap 36 of 71, half race distance in the Mexico Grand Prix. And it is Max Verstappen leading in the Red Bull. 7.5 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton in second place, who's now only 1.3 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, who is on the medium tyre and closing him down.
So the next car is Verstappen. He's the current race leader. He's 4.5 seconds behind.
Joe, Vettel, Gasly have all not pitted at the moment. And that's the thing. Ricciardo hasn't pitted, Joe hasn't pitted, Gasly hasn't pitted, Albon hasn't pitted, Magnussen hasn't pitted, all on the medium tyre, the same as Russell. So very, very interesting from Mercedes, from a team that said they wanted to go aggressive. I think that's the sort of surprising part. This is a good way to secure second and fourth, don't get me wrong, but is it aggressive and is it leaving Hamilton vulnerable? Because he's on the hard tyres, Perez is on the mediums, and as a result, Perez is going quicker.
He is catching. He's catching 1.3 seconds back from Hamilton in a Red Bull with good straight line speed. Comes through turn 16. And Hamilton's just struggling a little bit for grip cards compared to Perez on the mediums. Running on board with Perez is a little bit too far back to get the DRS on Hamilton this time around. He's been on those mediums, what, 10, 15 laps now?
The Vettel is still out on soft. We are considering plan C. It would be plan C, target -5 to 10. Any thoughts?
Yep, understood. Happy.
Because the activation is coming out of the final corner. Here's Ricciardo's radio.
The Vettel is still out on soft. We are considering plan C. It would be plan C, target -5 to 10. Any thoughts?
Yep, understood. Happy.
Ricciardo at McLaren being told, Vettel's on the softs, let's just stick him on. Go for it. Ricciardo's saying, yeah, happy with that. Mercedes, the only team picking this medium hard strategy at the bar Ocon and Latifi.
And Norris. A few on the cusp at the top 10 that have gone for it. Mercedes, the only ones of the top teams, but the other top teams started on the soft. They could go to the mediums. Cheers, because Perez is coming into the baseball stadium. He's about a second back from Hamilton this time around. Still, I think, just too far away to get DRS. But he's piling on the pressure, and Hamilton is just not very quick on this hard tyre. A tenth slower than Verstappen that time around, a tenth slower than Perez. Russell 2 tenths quicker, and Hamilton is just struggling to find some pace right now.
Sainz is close to Valtteri Bottas as they come out of the final corner. Bottas is yet to pit. Sainz has pitted. They're just coming into the baseball stadium now at the Foro Sol. Hamilton, meanwhile, is still ahead of Sergio Perez and out of DRS range at the moment.
This tire's not as good as medium.
Yeah, copy loose. We did see some drop off at the end of life.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, it's a tricky one for Hamilton because they pitted him to keep track position over Perez. The other option for Hamilton was to...
This tire's not as good as medium.
Yeah, copy loose. We did see some drop off at the end of life.
Stranger one.
But I get that he's got to pass Perez if you put him on the softs at the end. but he's also got to pass Verstappen if you put him on softs at the end. If you want to win the Grand Prix. So I take your point as Ocon and Gasly fight over 12th place. Ocon ahead of Gasly now in that 12th position, but you're going to this is what I was kind of saying earlier. If you're starting on the medium tyre, you're guaranteeing you've got to do overtakes, right? Because you're not undercutting, you're not pushing because they were close enough for a maybe not for an under. Well, maybe on the mediums they were close enough for an undercut. If you can be 2.5 seconds back, you could have undercut, but they boxed themselves into a strategy where you are going to have to overtake on circuit. So to then not fully commit to that strategy because you might have to.
I was looking the hard. Norris and Esteban.
Yeah, also not bad. So Esteban did a 23.7 on his first lap. That was.
Yeah, much less risk on the hard.
It's a pretty tall order. The undercut didn't work for them early on because of that medium start tyre.
I think that's what I mean. They chose that also. I think that's because you say, oh well, the others could do it because they didn't start on the mediums. Well, that was still a Mercedes decision to go long, and they didn't really go much longer.
The Russell one is, I find it baffling. The Hamilton one, I can see the logic as to why they picked it. Was the medium tyre the good starting tyre? Well, at the moment, it probably doesn't look it. But there's still 31 laps to see if Verstappen's tyres start falling away. And if Verstappen's tyres start falling away, it'll look genius.
Yeah, lap 40 of 71. That's Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault.
Okay, Valtteri, for now we are still on plan A. We are monitoring the cars behind. Copy on tyre.
Impressive. You've also got Magnussen, who's just come in as well in the Haas. And Albon, I think he's just come in as well. They've both switched onto the medium tyres.
This is reminding me a little bit of last year's race now. Verstappen disappearing out front, Hamilton holding on for second place over Perez, and he's still just got that 1 second. Perez a little too far away for DRS, but if Perez can get within DRS, that extra closing speed will be huge for him.
Carlos Sainz is trying to get past his compatriot Fernando Alonso. They're fighting over 5th place at the moment. So Alonso has. Bottas has. He's just emerging from the pit lane, but it's only Alonso, Bottas. Well, no, not Bottas. Obviously, Ricciardo and Joe. Alonso, Ricciardo, and Joe that have yet to pit. And Sainz does get ahead of Alonso now, and up into 5th position, but he is 21 seconds behind George Russell, 22 seconds now behind George Russell. So Ferrari almost a pit stop back in 5th position as well. Pierre Gasly hasn't stopped either. So those are the drivers that haven't stopped. 31 laps to go. Verstappen leading. The gap goes up to 9 seconds now to Lewis Hamilton, 0.6 quicker on that last lap.
He's marching away, Verstappen. Perez stuck behind Hamilton now, 1.2 seconds back in a bit of dirty air. Needs to penetrate within a second, and then he'll get the DRS and a chance to overtake. But he's in that frustrating zone now, Perez. I'm sure he's got a bit more pace in there. Didn't have Hamilton ahead. That's his problem. Russell doesn't have any pace either in the other Mercedes. Was going quite nicely on the mediums. He's put on the hards. It's going no quicker now. A couple of decent laps, and now he's actually going the same as he was going on the medium.
Okay, Max, could I have a front wing update for a possible next stint?
2 clicks more.
Understood.
Have 30 laps to go, so very interested to see what Ricciardo gets up to. And let's not forget, this hard tyre was one that was declared wasn't going to be used at the start of the weekend. Lap 41 of 71.
Alex Albon did come in and he put a soft tyre on, so he's one of the few drivers that have gone medium to soft. Stroll also did that. So far his current stint on these tyres is 23 laps on the soft tyres. I wonder if he can make it all the way to the end.
Good move there from Ocon, getting Bottas. Bottas has just come out of the pits. Ocon has, well, they've both just come out of the pits a few moments ago, and Ocon's got ahead of Bottas here with a very nice move around the outside at turn 1. Lock up from Ocon coming into turn 4, but that is now over, I think, what will be a net 8th place, and it was a very nice move indeed from Esteban Ocon. Bottas after...
Okay, 5 seconds penalty pit stop. And we push to the flag.
A good place earlier on, could accept Alonso getting through, but now the other Alpine comes through. Bottas,
so far back, Ocon.
Bottas is just not a great racer, wheel to wheel. So often, he's just not aggressive. And Ocon swept around the outside. Bottas half-heartedly thought through turns 4, 5, 6. But Ocon had him covered every step of the way. And in a car that was so quick yesterday, he's now only looking like picking up a couple of points in the Alfa Romeo.
Personal best first sector of the race for Lewis Hamilton. 6/10 quicker than Verstappen.
I'm not happy with this tyre. Sliding around a lot.
This tyre isn't good, mate.
We did see a drop off on the medium, so I think some may struggle to get the end on that.
Even that message from Pete Bonington, it was Russell we heard first.
I'm not happy with this tyre. Sliding around a lot.
There was a bit of drop off on the medium, so maybe
the race is getting away from them. But Hamilton has just smashed in a lap 1 second quicker than the last handful of laps that he's been doing. So he's just suddenly found some pace. He's 9.3 seconds back from Verstappen. He's shaken Perez off slightly. Perez now 1.8 seconds back. And he's unleashed a much better lap time, having done a run of poor laps, losing half a second every single time he came through. This time he takes 3 tenths back from Verstappen. I don't think that'll get Red Bull's nerves jangling too much right now, but it is at least some pace on that hard tyre.
It's done 13 laps. 13 laps on that hard tyre so far. You know, I mean, it's slow to warm up, but not that slow.
No, it's not the
holding
warm-up.
back.
No, well, they've been quicker than that. It's not his personal best. He did that when he put the hard tyre on. Russell did
How many laps old tyres he has? Oh, God.
His tyres are 7 laps old, and in the last stint, he struggled more than us towards the end. We were racing until the end. It's going to be a long stint.
some charge left in him. The problem is he's just dropped so far back now. It was 1.5 seconds back in that first stint. Now it's 9.5 seconds, and the laps are ticking down.
And Verstappen's been saving his tyres the whole time. We saw him going slower than Sergio Perez in the early stages of this second stint. So even if Hamilton finds some pace, Verstappen's going to have a decent amount of tyre life left, lap 44 of 71.
And this time Hamilton drops 4 tenths from his last lap. So it's just very inconsistent on these hard tyres. Perez was no quicker, so the gap is still hovering about 1.5 to 2 seconds.
And Ricciardo is still out there on the mediums. And that is now 42 laps for Daniel Ricciardo.
He's only 7 tenths off his best lap of the race, running in 7th. Granted, everyone on fresher tyres is going quicker. So
Hamilton last lap at 22.5. Gap is 9.5.
And then he's got the straight line speed to defend if Hamilton were to catch him. But at the moment, it looks a tall order.
Yeah, the two drivers who haven't pitted yet, as you say, Daniel Ricciardo in 7th for McLaren, who started on the mediums, and Zhou Guanyu for Alfa Romeo, who also started on the mediums, and both of them up to lap 44.
Do you think that Mercedes, it's impossible to know, of course, is there any chance Mercedes thought Red Bull would be starting on the mediums? And so they think if they go on the softs and Red Bull are on the mediums, then they're cooked because they're going to be on the sort of worst strategy. So they're trying to match Mercedes, because it's been quite rare this season, broadly speaking, that we've had differences in tyre strategies up at the front.
If I were Mercedes starting 2nd and 3rd, and I was thinking Red Bull would start on the medium, I would definitely go for the soft and try and take the lead at the start. That would be the obvious thing, to take the track position and then fight it out from there. So I'm not buying that.
But even if you think you haven't got the pace to take the lead at the start.
What are you on about? They were right there. Russell was side by side with Verstappen. The stats are good.
He wasn't side by side.
Watch a replay. He was.
All right. Lap 45 of 71. Verstappen leading the Grand Prix, 9.7 seconds ahead of Hamilton in 2nd place. Perez is 3rd. Russell is 4th in the Mercedes. There's a great little fight going on behind Zhou, who is currently in 9th place. He had to pit on the medium tyre, and he has got Ocon and Bottas right behind him now. And this is going to be a nice little fight coming down in towards turn 1, unless Zhou dives into the pit lane here. But Bottas is right up behind the Alpine driver. He doesn't dive into the pit lane, so we're going to have a nice little 3-way tussle coming down into the first corner. Ricciardo does pit, so this fight is over 8th place. Zhou, Ocon and Bottas, the Alfa Romeo, the Alpine and the other Alfa Romeo, but Ocon goes to the outside. Bottas is in the slipstream. and he's nowhere near doing anything in the end. So Alpine of Ocon gets ahead of Valtteri Bottas, ahead of Joe, stays ahead of Bottas. Bottas has got a decent enough drive, actually, but Ocon actually got the DRS from when he got ahead of Joe last time, and nothing Bottas can do. So in the top 10, well, top 9 now that everyone has pitted, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, the top 4. Then it's Sainz and Leclerc in the Ferraris, Alonso and Ocon, the Alpines, 7th and 8th, Bottas 9th, Joe 10th, but yet to pit. So it's Lando Norris who's in a net 10th place. Jenny Gap.
Yeah, Ricciardo just came into pit and it was a lovely pit stop, really well executed. He's on the soft tyres now and heading back out. So one stop him, onto the soft. Let's see what he can do.
So much straight line speed in the Alpine, even though he was in the slipstream, but Bottas didn't gain much in the straight line there. We've seen that all season, actually, that the Alpine's been quite a slippery car to try and pass. Fernando Alonso does his personal best.
Big picture, Lance, you need to use the tools, or you need to drive the front in the right way in the high speed. That's critical at the moment.
So tell me just which corners exactly the high speed to lift more.
Yeah, high speed, 7, 8, 9, 10. We think use diff open and don't combine on those entries. Lift into 7 for fuel as well.
Still on that last lap, 0.2 quicker than Perez. He's not closing in on Perez either. The hard tyre, as we've said, for Mercedes, not really doing much at the moment. Lap 47 of 71, the Mexican Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Bottas trying to hunt down Ocon still for 8th place, still a little too far away. Joe is coming out of the pits quite a long way down the order. That is the thing for Russell, where if he had pitted and extended his stint, how much time would he have lost to those around him? And would it have been too much to make back up? I presume that was the calculation that Mercedes deemed was too far for him to do anything, even if he put the soft tyres on.
So what do they do instead? But the hard tyres, he's just lurking 6.5 seconds back, not making any inroads anyway. There was no obvious option, but the gamble was to go for the soft. And then you got the chance of a safety car as well, which would bring him right into play. And the Russell one, with nothing to lose, I find baffling. Hamilton had something to lose. You get a lost track position to Perez, and then it'd be a Red Bull 1-2 right now. And we'd be thinking, can Hamilton get back ahead of Perez, let alone try and take a race win from Verstappen? Passing Perez, I think, would be hard enough. So Hamilton pitting was okay and understandable. The Russell one was strange. Both of them still struggling, but Perez still 1.5, 1.6 seconds back. I think Hamilton's got the measure of him for now. Ricciardo does a personal best lap of the Grand Prix. Up in 12th place, he's less than 4 seconds back from Tsunoda, and he's only 6 seconds back from his teammate Lando Norris. So,
okay, I can do it like that, but I feel like I'm giving up a tremendous amount of lap time.
Yeah, it's fine for us at the moment, Lars. Our opportunity is at the end if we keep the front left tyre on the car, okay?
8 seconds from Hamilton to Perez. Russell is still there in 4th place. Then it's 25 seconds back to the Ferraris in 5th and 6th. They're having a real Mercedes weekend, Ferrari, aren't they? That earlier in the season, it was Mercedes who were running 5th and 6th and nowhere near the cars in front and nowhere near the cars behind. And that is the situation that they're in at the moment, with Sainz ahead of Charles Leclerc. The sound you can hear is Russell, 6.6 seconds back still. This will be good news for Perez in terms of the Drivers' Championship. I think this would move him back up into 2nd position in the Drivers' standings with just 2.
Georgia looks like it's a bit like Miami. They will come in eventually. So Perez will have to do 20 laps longer stint than what you did on the medium to get to the end.
Well, there's some positive news for Russell. It's going to be like Miami. Can't really remember exactly what the reference is in Miami, but Perez is having to do 20 more laps than you did on the mediums in order to get to the end of the Grand Prix. So Perez did pit a little earlier, didn't he? Only 2 laps earlier in the end.
Than Verstappen. Then Verstappen was a few laps earlier than Hamilton, 4 laps earlier, and then Russell was the latest of all, another 5 laps later than Hamilton.
So he does have an 11-lap tyre benefit, does Russell, on Perez in the fight over 3rd place.
Yeah, the thing is, if that medium tyre's not degrading, then a lap tyre benefit is pretty negated, isn't it? There's no deg.
Still having dropouts in power.
Copy.
So,
Still having dropouts in power.
Copy.
suddenly in Miami, a 25-lap-old hard became the quickest tire, and I do remember that now. He says, and it was a strange phenomenon, wasn't it? But we'll see whether that happens. Hamilton would be ahead of Sainz in the championship if it finishes like this. It'll be second for Perez in the standings, third for Leclerc, fourth for Russell, fifth for Hamilton, sixth for Carlos Sainz, which would be a bit frustrating for the Spaniard. But still 2 more races to go, as I say, and we've got 22 laps to go in the Grand Prix in Mexico. Jolyon Palmer.
Sainz is having a good weekend, actually. Out-qualifying Leclerc this weekend, out-racing Leclerc as well. The intra-team Ferrari fight is pretty one-way traffic with the odd moment of Sainz brilliance. But overall, it's been Leclerc who's going to be taking the pole position award this year. Leclerc, who was threatening.
Yeah, this pace is way too fast.
Teammate, it's just a weekend where Ferrari have no pace at all.
Ricciardo has caught Tsunoda. He's less than half a second away from Yuki Tsunoda in 11th place, and then he's only 2 seconds back from his teammate Lando Norris. Then he's only a second and a half back from Valtteri Bottas. So we'll see what kind of progress Ricciardo can make in the McLaren in the closing 20 couple of laps.
This Ricciardo v Norris McLaren strategy is a really interesting indicator of the Mercedes choice.
Real interesting case study.
It's a case study. We love a case study. We've got
Norris Ricciardo 22. That's what they'll call it in future years.
A bit like the Miami 22 Pirelli hard case study, which has reared its head again today, or it might do. Here comes Ricciardo. He's just about to attack Yuki Tsunoda coming down into turn 1. He's in the slipstream. He's got the DRS, and the McLaren driver is closing. Tsunoda defends. Ricciardo to the outside. Not able to get the move done into turn 1, but he'll try and get the switchback coming into turn 4. Tsunoda was aggressively over to cover the outside line, and he might just hold on to this Tsunoda. Now Ricciardo's got the run to the outside coming into turn 4. Can't get the job done just yet. One more switchback opportunity coming out of 5. Gets on the power. Just not long enough, although he sticks a nose in. Ricciardo mounts up the side, and there's contact. A little launch over the tyres from Yuki Tsunoda, who's off towards the barriers. Keeps it going, I think. Might have gone into anti-stall there. He's got some damage. Rare to say this, I think, for Daniel Ricciardo, but that felt a bit clumsy. It was always going to be a closing gap from a little too far back. I think he was surprised that Tsunoda kind of gave him the opportunity to put a nose in there. Then he thought, well, go on then, I'll take it. But it was always just a little trap, really, as Tsunoda came across, took his aim.
Legs are critical here. I'm lifting, I can't do more, I'm already doing so much. Copy that, do your best and keep cooling down the left hand side of the car.
So maybe we'll get that case study.
Well, Ricciardo's still going. That's the case study. He's got Tsunoda out of the way by hook or by crook. Tsunoda has managed to peel it back into the pits. For a moment, if he'd have hit the wall there might have been a safety car and it would have thrown the Grand Prix wide open again. But the sound of the AlphaTauri now trundling the pit lane potentially into retirement, forced by Ricciardo's ambitious and not really worthwhile move then into turn 5 has been noted now for the stewards, and I'm expecting Ricciardo to get a pen for that.
New front wing being attempted for Yuki Tsunoda, but they can't get the old front wing off, so Tsunoda's race is ruined, and I think, the engine's off. Not getting the benefit of the car repairs. Ricciardo, I mean, he was there, and Tsunoda gave him sort of a bit of room. What is doing?
That was a pretty bad one from Ricciardo, to be honest. He's come from far back in a corner. You can't really make a lunge in. If Tsunoda had missed his brakes completely and gone really wide, then fine. But it just wasn't the case, and Tsunoda turned in. Ricciardo was coming from too far back, chucked the nose in, and that was just impatience from Daniel Ricciardo on his soft tyres, wanted to charge through. He's having a decent weekend here, but he did not get that one right.
No. So Tsunoda out of the Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen is leading it, 10.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez is in third place, still lapping the same lap times as Hamilton, and the gap is still 1.5 seconds with less than 20.
Are we on the wrong tyre, mate?
No, Lewis, we think we're on the right tyre. We're going to get to the end on this, no sweat. We're going to get to the end on this, no sweat.
So Mercedes are still confident that they're getting to the end and Red Bull are in trouble. That's and if that pans out, then that's great call from Mercedes, and they've got it right. That's not how it sort of currently appears, but they seem pretty confident.
I don't know if their objectives are aligned at this stage. I feel like Hamilton is not caring about Perez. He's wanting to win. I feel like Mercedes now are not thinking about the victory. They're thinking about second. Is Verstappen's medium tyres going to fall away? He's got 10.5 seconds. He's lapping still quicker than Hamilton. They're not going to fall away in the last 17 laps to this extent. I just think Mercedes are, if they're thinking that this is the right tyre, they're incredibly hopeful. It's the right tyre to finish second for Hamilton in the position he's in. He's holding Perez at bay. Perez is still 1.6 seconds back, putting Hamilton under pressure. Russell getting slightly closer now to the back as well of Perez, slightly closer, 5.8 seconds. I mean, maybe Perez's tyres will drop a little bit more, having been in the dirty air of Hamilton for so long. And he was the first to put on the mediums, but there's not even a sign of that yet.
Ricciardo behind Norris on that last lap was a second quicker than his teammate, so the gap comes down to 5.3 seconds, but Ricciardo has got to make those tyres last. Not only and there's a look from Gasly, that's aggressive stuff on Sebastian Vettel coming into turn 4, and he makes it stick this time around, and Joe is going to try and take advantage of that. Does he go up the inside of Vettel? He does, and Vettel sees him coming, and Joe backs out of it just about. Sensible stuff there from Joe after I thought he was going to be incredibly insensible.
That was almost the Ricciardo Tsunoda take.
The right hand side was damaged. Okay, we have bodywork damage.
How he can think that overtake the I don't know. It's really such a rookie guy. How the he can overtake?
He's got no pace at all on this medium tyre.
He hasn't had any pace all weekend.
He was looking better in the first part of the race. He's just dropping back. He's been done by Albon, and now he's just dropping further away.
10-second time penalty for Daniel Ricciardo for causing that collision with Yuki Tsunoda. And
where does the 10 seconds come from?
What's the question?
The norm is a 5. This one a 10. Tsunoda was out of the race.
Maybe because it caused a retirement. I don't know.
And so just surprised you after Russell and Sainz last time out.
Well, presumably.
No rears, guys.
Ricciardo 10-second penalty. He's actually catching Norris. The case study still stands, Jack. The case study stands. Ricciardo catching Norris, having been slower than him through the weekend. Different strategies. Norris on the Mercedes strategy. Ricciardo on the Ricciardo strategy.
It was 1 second on the lap before this. It was then 1.2 seconds on the last lap. So it's down to 2.2 seconds. Actually, it's plummeted on this lap as well. So Ricciardo flying at the moment, and then he'll have Bottas to try and catch as well in 9th position. Jenny Gao.
Those soft tyres just seem to be the ones to be on right now. You've got Ricciardo closing in on Norris, who's on the hard tyres, Ricciardo on the soft. And then you've got Vettel on the mediums, and he's being closed down as well, in a great battle from Zhou, who's gone onto the soft tyres. They allow people to race.
Yeah, all of the soft shod drivers are on the attack at the moment, but where will they be in 15?
Blue flags for Perez. And Daniel is the car behind Perez. He will be quicker than you. Let him go. He has a 10-second penalty.
10th place now. Norris down into 11th position. So case study does suggest softs are good currently, and Perez actually is almost within a second of Hamilton. They're coming through the middle sector, and Perez is the closest he's been to Hamilton for a while.
Fastest first sector of the Grand Prix for Perez this time around. He had just dropped a little bit further away as well. The gap was almost 2 seconds, and then Perez was 7/10 quicker in the first sector. Riding on board with him now, coming down to the final sector. It looks like Hamilton will still be out of DRS range over a second, I'm sure, as they come through turn 12. Hamilton's got traffic ahead. It's an Alfa Romeo that he's about to be lapping. Everyone up to Charles Leclerc has been lapped in this race. It's Bottas that Hamilton's trying to lap. Leclerc running in 6th position.
P6, position 8. P6, position 8.
And Jenny Gao, Max Verstappen is leading 12 seconds ahead of Hamilton, who is now coming under more and more pressure from Sergio Perez behind. Gap is still 1.2 seconds. The two McLarens coming down now. Ricciardo on that last lap did a 22.8. Hamilton did a 22.9. So Ricciardo's actually going quick as Hamilton in 2nd place and is kind of closing in on him, even though he's been lapped.
He's on the tail of Bottas now, Ricciardo. This is a cracking drive from Ricciardo, and it just is hammering home the point of the soft tyre working. Maybe Ricciardo's tyres will fall apart before the end of the race, but Ricciardo's strategy, great. Norris's strategy, poor. And Mercedes are on the same as Norris. They could have been on the same as Ricciardo. Certainly with one of the cars. That's the thing with Russell. Why not do that? Bizarre. Still a long way to go. Well, still a bit of a way to go.
Okay, Pierre, at the moment we think we are front limited. Do you think we can take one step more maybe? What do you think about the balance? Yes.
And it is Hamilton in 2nd, Perez in 3rd, still 1.5 seconds back from Hamilton. Then Russell in 4th. Russell on that last lap pretty much matched Perez's lap time. Across the line they come. And Ricciardo is 4 tenths back from Bottas. Bottas to the middle of the track. Ricciardo to the outside. And he will breeze past the Finn into the first corner. So Ricciardo's now got to try and build up 10 seconds. That's the frustrating thing for Ricciardo, because he might even have a shot at Ocon and Alonso, honestly. But the 10-second penalty will cost him if he does catch them.
But he might be able to build up 10 seconds over Bottas or Norris, because they're on that hard tyre that's not been good. And Ricciardo is flying on the soft, reeling them in, passing them. Okay, he biffed off Tsunoda, and that's why he's got the...
It was same lap time for Verstappen. He's been running in free air. Only 2 more cars ahead.
Sebastian Vettel, who drops down into 15th position. So Joe in 14th, Vettel 15th, Stroll, Schumacher, Magnussen and Latifi. The 20 drivers still out there. For some reason, Latifi has done 2 pit stops. I think he's just done it, hasn't he? Yeah, so Latifi's just made a 2nd pit stop. He was one of the first runners to pit and go on the hard tyre, but now he's gone under the softs. Here's Hamilton.
And it was same lap time for Verstappen. He's been running in free air. Only 2 more cars ahead.
Hamilton being told only 2 more cars ahead, i.e. 2 more cars to get out of the way before you can see Verstappen, but he's doing your same lap times. That's not the message you want to hear with 13 laps to go. Jenny.
Just on Latifi, he pitted at lap 25 to go onto the hard tyres, so he's just come back in on lap 59. He's gone onto the soft tyres. He's got nothing to lose. He's trundling around at the back, gone to the soft tyres. They're clearly working for everybody.
Okay, Lando, we've made this hard for you. 13 laps to go. Give it everything.
Nice and new. He can see what he can do.
Well, the bigger problem is 44 seconds back from anyone else on the track. I think that's the larger disadvantage.
Look, I'm trying to look at the glass being half full.
It's a bold move. We'll see if it pays off. Joe had a nice move around the outside of Sebastian Vettel to gain that place. Perez still 1.5 seconds back from Hamilton. Russell loses about 4 tenths on that last lap, lap 59 of 61. Verstappen still leading by 12.7 seconds.
Ricciardo is monstering away from Bottas as well on those soft tyres. 1.2 seconds quicker than Ocon. There's all manner of traffic out there, so the times are up and down as Ocon now gets out of the way of Sergio Perez, which will cost him a load of lap time.
He's 6 seconds from best of the rest, Ricciardo. Obviously, he's got his 10-second penalty, but he's 6 seconds from best of the rest.
He is.
Still not happy with this tyre.
Flying in this race.
Is it worth Russell looking at coming in again and putting a soft on?
He's got no chance at catching anyone. He might do it to get fastest lap, but so might Leclerc, to be honest. We might see a couple of them go for it.
Alonso might get a penalty because he has just held up Hamilton really quite badly through the first sector there. He saw him in the mirrors as well, I'm sure.
Still not happy with this tyre.
Russell's not letting it go. He's not happy with this tyre. And Hamilton, yeah, frustrated with Alonso, no doubt about that, as they come through. How much did that cost him in that first sector, Hamilton? He was 0.3 slower than Verstappen through the first couple of corners, so that cost him a little bit of time.
0.6 slower than Perez behind. Alonso just right in front of him coming into the first corner. It's easy to get out the way on the main straight. A little bit of bad blood between them at the moment.
That medium looks quick, mate. They're going to go to the end.
He does in the end, but in a very peculiar manner. Alonso is, I think he knows that Ocon and Ricciardo are coming, and so all of a sudden they're there. Alonso in 7th place, his tyre fresher than Ocon's.
That medium looks quick, mate. They're going to go to the end.
I wish we heard the reply from Pete Bonington there. Hamilton saying they're going to go to the end, and here's a little switcheroo, I think. Ocon getting ahead of Alonso, and Ricciardo's trying to get past Alonso as well. I wonder if Alonso's got a problem here, because he's suddenly just lost a huge amount of pace, despite being on fresher tyres than Ocon ahead of him. So not quite sure what's going on with Alonso, but Ocon's up to 7th, Ricciardo up to 8th. But soon, that may be 7th for Daniel Ricciardo. Down towards turn 4. Ricciardo to the outside. Ocon on the inside. Can Ricciardo go the long?
So yeah, 11 laps remain, Lewis. Everyone should be going to the end. Let's just see what we can do. It may come to us. Perez at 2.8 behind.
Gap ahead, mate. Gap ahead.
Yeah, 13.3 Verstappen, 22.7.
Pretty soon, Ricciardo will be through.
I think Alonso maybe does have an issue. He had DRS as well when Ocon came through. Was it just team orders? If so, it allowed Ricciardo through as well. Ricciardo does have the 10-second penalty. He's flying up the road from these guys. He's got 5.5 seconds to Bottas. He's gonna do that with 10 laps to go.
What a shame Ricciardo hasn't driven like this all year. It's brilliant.
Unbelievable, mate. What a season. What a season.
Copy that, mate. At the moment, let's keep fighting.
Yeah, he's got an issue.
Yeah.
It's been a season of bad luck for Fernando Alonso. So many things going wrong with him. Reliability's got away from him a lot as well. And that is him bemoaning all of his bad luck this season.
Here comes Ricciardo for Ocon for 7th.
Unbelievable, mate. What a season. What a season.
Copy that, mate. At the moment, let's keep fighting.
He could have waited 2 more laps, 3 more laps, and still been up in this 7th position. How quickly can he lap now to pull away from the rest of the field? If Alonso's got an issue, he's got a shot at building it up. He's got a 10-second time penalty for hitting Tsunoda out of the way. But, Jenny, I take your point if only Ricciardo had driven like this all season, but seems like it's because of the strategy. I'm not knocking Ricciardo, he's doing a great job, but that's the differentiating factor between him and everybody else inside the top 11.
Do you not think he's had opportunities before this drive to twitcher of the tail? He just seemed, all weekend, in fairness, he seemed a little more on it. And okay, he's got the penalty for that collision, but woohoo, he's hanging it out there. He's having fun. Maybe that's what it is. Just having fun out there.
I think he's wanted to have fun every other time.
Yeah.
He's just not had the pace or the car to do it underneath him. Here he...
Yeah. Are we sure we don't have any damage, guys? It's
Lost a second on that last lap. The gap is suddenly 4 seconds. Hamilton now, admittedly, has not closed it on Verstappen on iota. In fact, I think it's grown. But Perez has dropped off. Now, maybe that was a bit of traffic when they were getting stuck into some lappery or some such, but Perez has dropped off a little bit in that 3rd spot on the medium tyre. Russell in 4th. Verstappen continuing to lead, 13 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Lap 63 of 71. So we've got 9 laps to go in the Mexican Grand Prix.
Jack, don't tease us. Don't give us an inkling that those tyres might be falling off and that Mercedes have got it right all along by putting the guys on the hard tyres.
They've not got it right.
Even Norris, who was put on the hard tyres, his P11 is going nowhere.
They've not got it right. Ricciardo is flying and showing what the soft tyres could do on a second stint. Would it have been enough for Russell to come back past Perez, past Hamilton, past Verstappen and win? I don't know. That's a tall order, but this definitely looks like the better option.
I think my argument would be it couldn't have gone worse than this for Russell. No matter what tyre you put him on, yeah, he's finishing 4th. So worst case scenario. So why put him on the one that that guarantees fourth.
It was a no man's land strategy, wasn't it? Pitting late, but onto a tyre that will easily get to the end with no risk, nothing to gain by doing it. Just that there was no reason for that stop. For Hamilton, the logic was there to keep ahead of Perez. He is still ahead of Perez, and he's looking like taking a second place. But Russell, why not do something different? And there's the gain of a potential safety car, which hasn't happened, but it could have done.
Kind of feels like they decided what they were going to do before the race and just went with it and stuck to it.
It's not good. It's not good.
Biggest losses to Kevin are 4 entry apex and then turn 8, turn 10.
I don't think I have the tires right now to do what he does.
Yep, understood. Just drive the best laps you can. We'll hang in there.
We're feeling some heat, and ice cool they are now. 13 seconds ahead, 7 laps to go. Chilled.
Closing stages of the Mexico Grand Prix in Mexico City, and Max Verstappen is leading. 13 seconds still ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second place. Another 7/10 lost on that last lap from Sergio Perez, but Russell is barely gaining. Took 0.3 of a second out of him. The order is Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, Sainz, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Alonso, Bottas, the top 10.
Ricciardo has 5.2 seconds to Ocon. Ricciardo can clear all of these guys and still put 10 seconds to Ocon. He might even finish 7th yet, Jack, with his 10-second penalty.
He was 1.3.
Okay, Bottas 9.3, Alonso 8.1, Ocon 5.8. This is good, Daniel. Russell 1.7 behind.
3 times
6.5. No, 7.5.
Come on, Palmer.
That was painful to watch.
Maths with Palmer. Norris is getting Bottas. Norris up into 10th place. And straight on goes Alonso. Alonso's retiring again. Fernando Alonso out of the Grand Prix. And that promotes Norris up to 9th. Bottas into 10th. Smoke coming from the back of Alonso's car. And he's just got 2 races to go now with that Alpine. And here's his radio.
Engine.
Yeah, copy, mate. Sorry, mate. No words for that.
Virtual safety car deployed. Not the full safety car, because Alonso is well off in the runoff area down at turn 1. Full safety car would have been fun, but I think it'll just be a virtual safety car for this. So Alonso retires again, and he's shouting.
Engine.
Yeah, copy, mate. Sorry, mate. No words for that.
He was so happy early on in the race as well.
Yeah.
Tyres were good. Hey, whatever tyres we put on, it's happy days. It's not a happy finish for Fernando. Big salute from the crowd. Huge cheer from him, and he's waving back down in the runoff area of turn 1. But it is more bad luck. The way, after last week, where he had what I think is maybe the drive of the season to come back after his crash with Stroll, and then he got excluded. I was thinking, the 30-second penalty. I was thinking that is such a Fernando Alonso 2022 thing to happen.
Yeah.
He got that one reinstated, but he's lost a heap of points here again.
Virtual safety car is ending, so that will have neutralised the race for a moment. And that's what an engine blowing up sounds like.
Crunchy.
You've heard a few of those Renault engines blow behind you, haven't you?
Yep. Nightmares.
Alonso furious. Who's had more Renault engine failures, I wonder? You or Alonso?
I've gone through debris. Check the punches.
Copy.
There is your box.
Stay
There is a
out,
box.
stay out, stay out, stay out.
Have we stayed out? Tyres are gone.
Well, his tyres will be more gone than yours.
It doesn't matter if anyone else knows what I mean.
Russell on the radio asking the team to check for punctures. He's just gone through debris. He's worried.
I've gone through debris. Check for punches.
Copy.
There is your box.
Stay
There is
out,
a box.
stay out, stay out, stay out.
Have we stayed out? Tyres are gone.
Well, his tyres will be more gone than yours.
Whose tyres are we got? Perez. They're still trying to fight Perez. They're still up for fighting Perez.
Hey, he wants the fastest lap point, doesn't he? He wants to just do something else. And if Russell pits there, then he can take a soft tyre and see what he can do to the end.
But if you do fastest lap point, you wait until the end, don't you? Last, 2 to go.
Pull a bit more, yeah. BSC.
Go for fastest lap as well. Perez could then pit and go for fastest lap as well if you would have.
Well, not if he was pitting on a BSC. But anyway, yeah,
well,
you can do it
mate.
later. You can do it later still. That VSC wasn't great news for Ricciardo, but great news is he's still rapid.
Oh, a bit more of a gap. VSC.
Hamilton's saying Verstappen a little further ahead under the virtual safety car, which is true. Gap goes
Matter today, though.
Gap goes from 13 seconds up to 14 seconds. So Ricciardo, he's 8 seconds clear of Ocon. This is the big race in the final 4 laps, but I don't think this is even a race either, because I think he's going to do it no problem, Ricciardo. He needs to get 10 seconds clear of Ocon in 8th to hold on to his 7th place after getting a 10-second time penalty for hitting off Yuki Tsunoda earlier on in the Grand Prix.
This is Ricciardo's best drive for a long time, and he's hit someone off in an incident was entirely...
Okay, mate, max push from now. Max push from now.
Here, the scene of his last pole position back in 2018 when he was out Red Bull, and he's just looks rejuvenated this weekend. He's almost finding that 10 seconds to Ocon, and he's going to have effectively a free penalty soon for that. And for McLaren, suddenly that's pretty big, isn't it? Alonso retiring, Ricciardo finding form. If they can clear Ocon as well, that'll be 6 points for Ricciardo, 4 for Ocon. Norris now up into 9th. He passed Bottas, and Alonso retired. They're going to be taking some reasonable points back out of Alpine. 4 more points.
Yeah, Alpine would currently be on 157 points. That can't be right, and 142 for McLaren. But the gap coming into this was 11. I wonder if this hasn't quite updated since the Alonso exit, because that doesn't sound right at all. I can work it out in my head in a minute. So.
Well, it'll be 7th and 9th for the McLaren teams, and they'll be scoring 8 points, and it'll be 4 points, so they'll close the gap by 4 points. So it'll come down to 7. Lap 68 of 71. Verstappen leading. Hamilton 2nd, Perez 3rd, Russell 4th. 3 laps to go as Verstappen comes across the line in the Mexican Grand Prix.
It's not an exhibition of maths, is it, tonight?
Did I get it wrong?
3 times 6 was harder than 11 minus 4.
Did I get it wrong?
Nah, you got it right.
Okay, I was really panicking then.
Took a while.
It's also not been an exhibition of Formula One this evening, has it? Really, It was a really entertaining. I really enjoyed that sort of cat and mouse first stint, but as soon as the pit stops happened, it's kind of been job done for Max Verstappen, and a bit of action in the midfield, but Ferrari kind of nowhere. Ricciardo's drive has been the thing that has kept us all going, and he is now, but he's 9.7 seconds clear of Esteban Ocon. Gasly is about to attack Alex Albon for
What time did Russell just do?
Russell 22.5. Gap is 2.0. Ocon 9.6. 3 to go.
and holds the position, and takes the position, I should say, up into 11th place ahead of Alex Albon, who drops down into 12th position. Albon trying to get the drive out, but he can't get it done.
Hey, Gasly's Bottas. And by the way, Gasly's on soft tyres. They are working. Case study 2. Bottas goes deep at turn 4 as well. The man that out-qualified a Ferrari yesterday, he's just not had a good day today. Valtteri Bottas holding on for a point at the moment, which is lucky considering Alonso's retired. And he's got Gasly on his tail now for the final couple of laps. And I reckon Pierre Gasly might fancy that.
Will we expect much from Lewis Hamilton or Mercedes to do anything but second place in this race? I mean, surely we should be kind of going, oh, Lewis Hamilton, great, second.
Why?
Because they're just not as fast as Verstappen. I mean, okay, they...
Yeah, fronts are just gone.
He's finally got his way, but no, not even a little bit of, yay, they're second.
Why? They started second and third. Perez had a slow stop, which opened up the even better chance for them to keep Hamilton ahead. It's fine for Mercedes. So another podium for Hamilton, but they came here thinking this was their chance to win. They were so buoyant this whole weekend. Russell was disappointed not to put it on pole yesterday.
They said they were going to be aggressive.
And the thing is, it's not that they finished second, it's that they've wilted in this Grand Prix. Last time they finished second and Hamilton was leading and was trying to hold out, but he just couldn't, and the Red Bull was too fast. Here, maybe the Red Bull is too fast again. Hamilton is now 15 seconds away from Verstappen, but Mercedes have not called it right. They've not given the drivers the best shot. The soft tyre would have been, at least with one of their cars, the thing to do, split the strategies.
Lando, 2 laps to go. Just need to bring it home now, so do LIGO for the brakes, please. Let's do brakes 2, brakes 2.
Where there were question marks about Ferrari's strategy. Could they have done this? Could they have done that? Ultimately, whatever they did, they couldn't have won the Grand Prix. Red Bull were too fast. Doesn't feel like that's the situation here at all. It feels like Mercedes said they were going to go racy and then subsequently didn't, and covered off Perez for second place and covered off nothing for fourth place with Russell. Mercedes are very good at coming out and explaining their strategies in the week on their social media and stuff. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, because it'll be a very, very interesting one. But the problem is, a lot of the time you end up with the situation where they'll still say, well, no, this was the data they had at the time is still the data they sort of believe. So we'll have to see what comes of that one.
But how many times have we seen Ferrari botch a strategy and then say, no, our strategy was the best one this year? Is what can happen.
But no one has been able to stop Max Verstappen this afternoon in Mexico City. Comes through the final corner, checkered flag is there, and Max Verstappen becomes the driver with the most wins in a Formula One season. 14 for the year for Verstappen, another win for Red Bull, another win for the Dutchman. 2 races to go. How many can he win? He beats Verstappen, he beats Hamilton by 15 seconds across the line. Perez finishes in third on the podium at his home Grand Prix. Russell is going to set the fastest lap of the race on this final lap. Ricciardo across the line, and I think he's going to do it on Ocon. So Ricciardo across the line does finish in 7th place, and he does it with 2.1 seconds to spare. Daniel Ricciardo, great drive from him. Verstappen wins, Hamilton second, Perez third. Russell will be 4th across the line as he comes through the final corner now. 5th and 6th for the Ferraris.
That is mission accomplished, Max, and a very, very special number 14. Fantastic.
Oh, amazing, guys. What a fantastic race again. 14 wins. Unbelievable. What a season.
Well, mate, that is a new record. 14 Grand Prix victories. That's the most race wins we've ever had in a season. So absolutely congratulations. Very, very well done.
Yeah, double podium as well. That's amazing here in Mexico. Well done, guys.
You do not cease to amaze me, I have to say. That is very special.
I don't really need to explain the record, do I? Horner and Verstappen doing a very good job, and Verstappen taking the win. Hamilton second, Perez third, Russell fourth, Carlos Sainz fifth. Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Norris and Bottas completing the top 10.
That is mission accomplished, Max, and a very, very special number 14. Fantastic.
Oh, amazing, guys. What a fantastic race again. 14 wins. Unbelievable. What a season.
Well, mate, that is a new record. 14 Grand Prix victories. That's the most race wins we've ever had in a season. So absolutely congratulations. Very, very well done.
Yeah, double podium as well. That's amazing here in Mexico. Well done, guys.
You do not cease to amaze me, I have to say. That is very special.
Yeah, just too quick for us today. But let's keep pushing, man. It's getting closer.
Yeah, too right, Lewis. It is getting closer. Not far now.
Yeah, Lewis, I think we were very fast in hindsight. Maybe not the right tire choice, but we keep pushing.
So that's Toto Wolff saying, in hindsight, maybe not the right tyre choice, but we keep pushing.
Thank heavens for Toto.
Mega job, everyone. Great job at the pit stop. Thanks for continuing to push. Yeah, just too quick for us today. But let's keep pushing, man. It's getting closer.
Yeah, too right, Lewis. It is getting closer. Not far now.
Yeah, Lewis, I think we were very fast in hindsight. Maybe not the right tire choice, but we keep pushing.
Mariachi version or not? Just Palmer sauntering through West London, hips going to the mariachi Formula One.
I had a mariachi band in the back of a Renault for a promotional video I did back in the day, and it was just a pleasure.
Really?
They just piped up halfway around, just doing a bit of driving on a track. Beautiful.
Verstappen gets out of the car and waves to the crowd. Sergio Perez does also. That's the huge cheers that you can hear for Sergio Perez, finishing in third place, and did a solid job today. Perez looked for a while as though he might have the opportunity to beat Hamilton, but it wasn't quite to beat for Sergio Perez. Not quite a Red Bull 1-2, but a 14th win for Max Verstappen this season. Pulls his helmet off. The balaclava comes off as well. In terms of win percentages, it's not the record for Verstappen. But of pure number of wins in a season, he beats Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, who had both won championships with 13 wins previously. Sorry, Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel, my apologies, in 2004 and 2013 for Schumacher and Vettel respectively. Hamilton got 12, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all right. Verstappen's helmet, but 22-carat gold leaf. Did you ever have one of those, Jodium?
No.
Shame.
So big hugs from Perez and his father.
At the Mexican podium. Enjoy it.
Good job, guys.
Enjoy this crowd.
I think it's 25,000-seater stadium that surrounds that complex of corners up at turn 12. We've seen championships won there in the past. A little high five and an embrace between Hamilton and Verstappen. Same again for Hamilton and Perez. Even they had a little chat about the hard tyres. A little shake of the hand with Verstappen and Perez's dad. But we're now going to hear from our top three. Verstappen, Hamilton and Perez, starting with Max Verstappen, and they're going to be talking to the former F1 racer, Marc Genet.
Well, hello everybody. Hola todos. Max Verstappen, you are unstoppable. Tell me, first going on the race, which was the key point? Because everybody spoke about the start, and you did great, you know. Do you think that was a very important key?
For everyone, what of this weekend?
Yeah,
lots of positives to take away. No, definitely not, but as I said, lots of positives to take away.
George, strong race in hindsight, not the right tire, but there was pace even with the hard. We showed performance. Let's go from there.
Thanks, Jojo.
Have you ever seen something like that with such a big crowd?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an incredible atmosphere, and we love to come here.
And finally, Max, I don't know how much you look into numbers, how much you are into history, world champion, and now you are the first driver ever to win 14 Grand Prix in one season. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's been an incredible year so far. So yeah, we are definitely enjoying it, and we'll try to go for more.
Well done. Enjoy. Thanks. Lewis Hamilton, second place. You were pushing all the way. You were pushing Max. You were pushing Max at the beginning of the race. Did you think at some point that you could win that race?
Yeah, well, first, this has been an amazing crowd, and definitely a bit awkward this time round. Booze all day, but nonetheless, I have so much love for Mexico and for the people here. And what a great race and event they put on this weekend. I was so close, and I think in that first stint, but I think the Red Bull's just clearly too fast today, and ultimately maybe they had the better tire strategy.
About the tires, about the strategy, you tried the hard compound. We could hear you on the radio that it was difficult. What was the problem? Do you think the hard was not the right tire at that moment of the race?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was the right tire at the end. I thought we should have started on the soft, but yeah, obviously we had the opposite tire. It's okay in the first stint, but that hard tire was just an offset. So congratulations to Max, and it's great to be up here and separate the two.
Still, well done. You kept the pressure on the Checo, so well done for that second place.
Gracias.
And now, todos, Checo, ha sido increíble. Está con la familia. Checo. Felicidades, well done. What do you feel? What are your emotions? What are your emotions to be in front of 70,000 Mexicans here in Foro do Sol?
Yeah, I mean, I gave my best, today at the start. Really pushed hard. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a bad stop, which prevented us to undercut Lewis, and overtaking is so difficult. As soon as I got behind him, it was really difficult to follow, so I had to stay in third.
But still, I think a key point was start, when you overtook Russell to be on the podium. Do you think that was very important in turn 4?
Yeah, definitely. You know, given how difficult overtaking was today, I think they was key. You know, I thought we were going to be a little bit closer, but unfortunately, it didn't work out for us today. But still, it's a good podium, and in front of this crowd, I really wanted more today. But third place still is a good day.
And finally, and I let you answer in Spanish. Did you, every lap you were passing by, they were just crazy, you know, shouting for you. How much did you see them close? How much did you feel them when you were driving the car? And as I say, you can answer in Spanish to them.
No, ha sido increíble, la verdad. Muchísimas gracias por tanto apoyo que me han dado este fin de semana. Son increíbles, sin duda la mejor afición. Gracias.
Disfruta, felicidades.
So Sergio Perez, the darling of Mexico, the entire ground now delighted by them. Finished in third place behind Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, who this season just seems unstoppable. No matter what anybody throws at him, he deals with it. His 14th win of the season, as Jack said. He is now a record breaker. He holds the most wins of any driver in a Formula One season, and the rate he is going, it looks like it'll be 16 by the end of the season, because Jolyon Palmer, there's just no stopping him. That Red Bull and he together combined they're just dreamy. Are you all right? You've managed to get yourself trapped.
Yeah, Red Bull, they're just so good, aren't they? As a team, putting everything together, they have Verstappen. It's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. And we speak about Mercedes maybe not throwing as much as they possibly could at this one with the strategy, but Verstappen makes very few mistakes, and he is so hard to beat that to beat Verstappen this year.
Seems like the soft tire was a bit better today than expected, right?
Yeah, it could be. We'll have to analyze afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel, he was fine.
Yeah, this is clear.
And today they weren't. Full credit to Verstappen. He's just on such a roll.
Just going to try and listen into the cool-down room. Can't really hear anything. It's Perez speaking to Verstappen. They're watching some replays with Hamilton just sitting there watching it as well.
Yeah, really, it was a similar story to yesterday, actually, with qualifying, where Mercedes, they could have beaten Red Bull if they absolutely nailed everything and they got a bit of luck and Red Bull and Verstappen made a bit of an error. But that isn't what transpired. And that's the thing is, and no matter what goes wrong for Red Bull, okay, apart from maybe the pit stop in Singapore, the pitting early in qualifying that they never sort of recovered from, apart from that, even every error gets sorted out. The slow pit stop in Austin, they still win the Grand Prix. And Verstappen held the lead today. It was nice seeing him under proper pressure, though, because even in the past this year, when we've seen him versus Leclerc and Leclerc's chasing him or something, you always feel like Red Bull know they can outlast Ferrari. They know that they can keep going and their tires will be better than Ferrari's, and they never feel under actual pressure. Whereas for almost one of the first times this season, that first stint today felt like Red Bull weren't quite sure what to do. Verstappen saying, my tire's going away, and GP, as race engineer, could just say, yep, okay, understood. That's all they had.
Well, there's nothing more to do at that point. Yeah. You just got to keep going, get to a pit stop window where you can put the mediums and go to the end. And they did that right, and they called it right. So there's nothing much more from the cockpit you can do as an engineer, apart from try and speak about the front wing settings and get your car ready. And for all they've dealt with Ferrari this year, Ferrari remain the only team that have beaten them. Mercedes still missing that win. They've had a few chances. Hamilton's had a very good second half of the season, or second 2/3 of the season, really. Again, look strong today, but not strong enough. And Mercedes have 2 more chances to win.
Gap between Mercedes and Ferrari now at 40 points in the battle for second place, and that gap between McLaren and Alpine in the battle for fourth place is now, my math is terrible at this point of the night, 7 points, 6 points, something like that. So it's closing down that gap all the time. And a quick word on Daniel Ricciardo. We haven't been able to speak about him much this season. He loses a drive at the end of the year, but even with a 10-second penalty, finishing 7th.
Yeah, he was the highest finisher of those that did the soft tire strategy, the soft tire second stint. He was the highest finisher. I think he was the highest of the drivers that tried that strategy also, to be fair. So there's a bit of kind of mitigation a little bit, but it was still a good drive. He still got the job done, and it's nice to see. You like to see it after the miserable couple of years that Ricciardo's had.
Yeah, he was so down in Austin when he was asked, because he's done well at this track before, whether he could put demons behind him. He kind of laughed almost, but at least for this race, he can celebrate just that little bit more. So 2 races still to go. We have Brazil to come in 2 weeks' time, and then the season closer in Abu Dhabi in 3 weeks' time. Hopefully you enjoyed it, even though it wasn't the best race in the world. We will, of course, do a Checkered Flag podcast, which you can subscribe and download as soon as it's ready. Up next, we have One Extra Talks with Richie Brave, with the biggest group chat of the week. Bigger than ours? Possibly. Hashtag BBCF1 if you want to get in touch with us. Thank you for listening, as we said. Up next, it's the latest BBC News with Stuart Clarkson.